Man, I think there it is. We are live on our first ever Crime Scene Cleaners Roundtable. Now, it's going to be exciting because we're in a different format than we were last week. In that last week it was just me and Audrey on a different type of forum to be able to broadcast this out. But this time we are on Google Hangouts, and it's a really cool thing. It allows us to all interact and to be able to uh, talk to each other and with real time interaction, faces showing up on the screen and all. So I'm real excited about it. We're going to start here in about 3 or 4 minutes, but for now, we can just talk to each other. Uh,
Cool.
yeah, I'm excited with Tom to be here. Thomas
Well, thank
Simpson.
you.
Yeah, real excited to have you, man. And I know that for us, it brings a lot of credibility to what it is that we are trying to do here on the Crime Scene Cleaners Roundtable, and also what we're trying to do with that American Biorecovery Association. So, like I said, in about 3 or 4 minutes, we'll get started on. But anyway, glad to have you, man.
No, I appreciate you guys having me. It's an honor. And I respect you know uh, anybody who's willing to go out and clean up these types of conditions. And it's important that we do it right, and that we're with like-minded individuals, professionals who won't leave an insured or a person hanging, and that you're in it for the right reasons.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the most important aspects, I think, of being in the business is you got to love it. You love what you do, and feel that you're offering a service that can provide someone who's really hurting a a remedy to that, at least maybe not to the hurt inside, but visually, uh, just for traumatic reasons that don't leave a stone unturned, and make sure that you do a thorough and good job. And uh, that's that's been my motto since I got thrown into this business, should I say. And
Well, I'll tell you what, man. When you talk about thoroughness, I'm not kidding. When I do think about you in this last couple of years, when I've heard you speak, man, you are incredibly thorough and detailed when it comes to the topics that you cover and all. Man, it's really cool. Like I said, uh, I think that's one of the neat things about when I listen to you speak. It's like, man, this dude. Number one, I know
Knowledgeable.
you have a great retention. You have to have a great retention. Your memory is just unbelievable to be able to spit out all this stuff that you do.
I don't know how, but you know what, as far as retention and memory, it's more or less driven by passion. I've had a passion to learn everything I can about what I do for a living, and that's it's an investment. Uh, just a And for me to be able to turn that investment around into something that's positive for me and my family and my company and the employees of our company, it's been a fantastic voyage so far.
Yeah,
So
very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, I think we can go ahead and get started, and want to welcome everybody again to our first live stream, our first actual live stream. Our first one was recorded, as I said earlier, but this one's actually live, and I'm real excited to be able to be up and running. So, for those of you that didn't get to tune in last week, this show is for everyone. It's for people who are in the industry, who are looking to share knowledge, to be able to develop relationships with people within the industry, and all in the spirit of trying to improve on what it is that we do in the crime and trauma scene cleaning industry. Ultimately, it's helping the people that call us in their time of need is why we wanted to start a forum like this. Is the more that we can share information and knowledge, the better we can help the people that are calling us in their time of need. And that's who we're here to serve. So Thank you guys again for joining us. I'd like to introduce our guest to the roundtable. I can tell you that she is the beauty and the brains behind the brawn, and that is my lovely wife, Audrey Trinidad.
Thank you, honey. Hi, my name is Audrey Trinidad, and I am the owner of Biotech's Crime and Trauma Scene Cleaning, the
Mm,
lucky wife of Rafael Trinidad.
I love it, just like we practiced. Awesome. Yeah, and our second guest is, and I'm really excited to have him on the show. It's Thomas Licker. He, uh, Tom, thank you very much for joining us, man. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, Thomas, go ahead, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And before you get there, here's what I'd like to know. First off, I'm going to throw some questions your way just to kind of lighten it up and just see what we can get from you. What is your favorite song?
Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd.
Well, I did remember that. We did hang out one time, and I was like, Thomas is a headbanger. He's a rocker. Blew me away, man.
Yeah, I remember that as well.
Just to, it's one of those, Pink Floyd is one of those completely underrated deep thought bands that even though it may have been some chemically induced lyrics, it gets you to think. It gets you to think deep.
Yeah.
All right. What about movie? What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie was probably Outbreak.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, just and that's funny thing is that when that movie came out, I don't know, it's a long time ago now. Probably when did that movie come out? I mean, that was
late 1990s or
90s. Yeah, I mean, I was just probably a freshman or a sophomore in college, and I was in the middle of, not knowing what the heck I was going to do for the rest of my life, spending tons of money per semester. And I saw that movie and I said, that's it. I'm going to be an environmental scientist with engineering and biology. And I just went for it. And
dude, that was some scary stuff.
It was, yeah, it was. I was like, this is very far fetched. It's never going to happen here, right? And but I said, man, I want to learn about this, and I want to know a little bit more about that part of the business and what opportunities might present themselves with that type of knowledge. So that's where we find ourselves today.
See, for me, I just wanted to go stock up on water, grab as much ammo as I could, see how many weapons I could get. I was like, I wasn't all about trying to figure how to solve this. And I was like, how am I going to survive?
Well, it's funny you say that because I just watched these guys who are like doomsday preppers and they're burying vessels underground with booby traps and they're watching out for the zombie apocalypse and all this kind of stuff. And I just eat that stuff up. I love it. Even watching, my favorite TV show is Monsters Inside Me on Animal Planet.
Oh,
yeah. So you gotta, you have to have, when they talk about the parasites and just the things that can really ruin someone's day. I don't know why I'm into it, but I am.
Yeah. Well, but you're the kind of guy that I couldn't go to one of those movies with because you'll be leaning over to me all the time going, there's no way because the biological aspect of what they're doing and the way this is and the way you solve this is. And I'd be like, dude, I just want to eat my popcorn and watch these monkeys just go at it, take over.
Yeah. It helps you put some perspective into how Hollywood really portrays some of the things in our business that may not be accurate. But even when you're dealing with the movie Outbreak, after the Ebola crisis, is like, man, something like this could really happen, and any of us could be called upon to act. Yeah. It's terrifying, but at the same time, it's what we train for.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, for you, to give you a little insight on Tom, he's the board president of the American Bio Recovery Association. That's ABRA. We talked about that last week. I'll let you go into that a little bit, but just to know about a little bit about Thomas, he worked at sites under the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, the Food and Drug Administration, United States Department of Agriculture, Department of Defense, Federal Environmental Protection Agency, and many more. He has 20 plus years experience. Correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, Thomas, but he's got a Bachelor of Science degree, Slippery Rock University there in Pennsylvania. He's a director of infection control technologies, received certification as a certified environmental infection control remediator. That are upcoming with the Biodefense World Summit of 2018. That's why I'm saying I couldn't watch a movie with you like Outbreak, dude. When you're involved in the Biodefense World Summit of 2018, it's like,
Well,
nah.
it's just like watching SWAT with you. I couldn't enjoy that movie because you do the same thing. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen.
Dude, that was totally real. Everything about it. Just so much the way it is.
Well, we started out with infection control technologies about 10 years, and we split it off from the restoration company, and we started to do trauma and crime scene cleaning, and that wasn't even really part of my forte. It was just more or less there was another guy that we were trying to launch this division. And I was going after more preventative maintenance, pharmaceutical, high-end facility hygiene, disinfection, that kind of stuff, that the annuitous stuff that just continues to bring business or as a scheduled maintenance program. And I didn't really ever get into the trauma scene cleaning when the other gentleman, Brian Finch, had passed away. And so when we lost Brian, that was all put on me. And I had technicians and stuff like that. And I assisted in probably about 20 to 25 trauma and crime scene cleanups. Just because, when it's slow, you want to be billable. You constantly want to be utilized in some way. And so when Brian had passed away, all this was thrown on my plate, and I just ran with it. I called Ken. I said, what do we have to do? And called ABRA.
About Kent, for the people that don't know who Kent is.
Yeah. No, Kent's the founder of the American Bio Recovery Association. And probably one of the most knowledgeable people, when it comes to crime, trauma, disinfection. He's written books and publications, and probably one of the best minds in the business. So, I agree. Yeah, and I called, in pretty much desperation. Where do I get certified? How do I go about doing it? And the whole group in ABRA really kind of took me under the wing because of the circumstances. And it was just a real family-oriented atmosphere. And I just really, felt thankful for their presence in my life at that time. And it really helped me develop a passion for helping those that were put into a really bad position, having a bad day.
We have to be able to so we'll guide the people who are tuning in who have maybe never heard of what it is that ABRA is. Maybe you can go into it a little bit just to let them know. What is ABRA, American Bio Recovery Association?
Well, the American Bio Recovery Association is the only industry trade association that's 100% dedicated to the biohazard, crime and trauma, clandestine drug event business. And it started in the 90s with a couple of like-minded people getting together and say, hey, we need an association. And as far as my understanding of the history of it, it went back and forth to being a tight-knit group of people that more so of a club atmosphere, and eventually all these industry trade associations pretty much start out the same way, and eventually graduates to something that has the ability to really represent the industry both in certifications, standards, and credibility.
Yeah.
And I focus on credibility because the market is full of a lot of people who, just I'm going to do crime scene cleaning, and they jump into it not really having any background or knowledge of how to help people or deliver a final product to a client or an insured that is of quality. And I think that's the main aspect. It's not just people that like to go to a conference. It's not people that like to hang out and party and what have you. I mean, that's part of it when we have our conference. So it is part of the have fun. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's about establishing a criteria in an organization that can pull this industry under its roof, all in a forward direction.
Yeah.
And
it's apparent when you go to the conferences. I mean, that's where you're able to physically show up and exchange information, meet your cohorts in the industry, get presentations. The last one was in Arizona, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we went to Arizona. It was real cool. The presentations, the people that ABRA brought in. I like my favorite part is the roundtables when we get to sit around and talk to each other and discuss the subject matters that we want to discuss kind of outside the curriculum. I like that part a lot because, we don't get together like this in this type of forum. And, there's 10 of us like there is at the table when we have that certain part where
Right.
everybody kind of gets up and talks to everybody. I thought that was a really cool thing. Audrey, what was your favorite part of the conference?
I enjoy a lot of the presentations. I learn a lot there. And that I always feel when I walk away that I walk away with more knowledge and I'm able to stay abreast in our industry. And that's very, very important to me. There are so many people there with so much knowledge, but the key that um, I really embrace is that everybody is willing to share, and they're not everybody's tight-lipped and not wanting to help. Everybody wants to help one another. So I enjoy that, and I enjoy of course, the drinks and the dinners and stuff like that. But when I walk away, I have more knowledge.
Yeah, you definitely don't make that expense to go out there to just for all that. But it definitely is. It's neat to be able to see also where else you can go within your business. We at Biotechs, we specifically are the crime and trauma scene cleaning. We do, the clandestine labs. We do hoarders. We help hoarders. We do things of that sort. But like Tom, with what he does in that infectious disease, man, that's just a whole nother realm. We were talking before we even started about the flu. Everybody knows about how the flu's going around, and there goes Tom, man. He's letting us know about that. I mean, it's really cool.
It's scary whenever a virus that's airborne or can be passed simply from a sneeze, touch points, what have you, and rapidly infect millions of people. Some of these people that have died recently, man, they're like fitness buffs. They're in great shape, and it's really hard to fathom why they would have succumbed to a flu bug. And we talk about one of the things I posted on the ABRA site today is about the flu vaccine and the arguments for it and the arguments against it. Man, when we're doing our work, we are going into some of the nastiest, dangerous, smelliest conditions, most dirty conditions possible. And our exposure risk is very high. So I'm always a proponent of getting whatever vaccinations are available to you when you're handling the type of business that we do. And some people argue, well, the flu vaccine isn't 100%. It doesn't work against this strain. And some of it's true. It's some of the vaccines out there aren't the strain that's going to pop up from year to year. It's a guessing game for them. Vaccines of what strain of this virus is going to hit us, or any type of virus. So they do the best they can, and if it's not about you, it's about if you get infected, how many people are you going to infect? Mm-hmm. So if you're not taking preventative,
man, that is no joke. Stay home.
Yes, yeah. If you're not going to take preventative measures to at least mitigate the threat of getting and spreading the flu, then yeah, it's a tough call. I know, people say they get the shot and they get the flu, and that's not. It's sometimes that does happen. Maybe people had caught the virus in the CVS where they got the flu shot. Who knows? And it hit you. That strain hit you, and bang, you got it. You look at where everybody's going to get these shots at. When's the last time that place has been cleaned?
Yeah.
It's just and how many people are sick going into the minute clinics and the drugstores. I mean,
I was telling Tom that they're setting up military grade tents so that they can keep the people that are infected outside of the hospital, because they're just spreading it inside the ER rooms. Everybody's getting it. So they said, no, we're setting up these tents. And I told them that today I heard on the news that only one child showed up for class today. When the teacher did roll call, there was one student there in class. I mean, it's really, really bad right now.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do with that, though? There's a lot of arguments that, you could apply disinfectants. You can, because it's an envelope virus. It's relatively easy to kill outside of the body, but and it doesn't really last that long outside of the body. So, what are you going to do to prevent going from person to person? Notice in China or in any other places in Asia, everybody you get a notification of a virus. Everybody's running around with the N95 masks on their face. You know why? Because if they have it and they don't know they have it, and they cough, they could be infecting others. And they do it out of a courtesy, not because they themselves have the flu, or they're not really protecting themselves from the flu or whatever virus. You saw it with the bird flu. You saw it with so it's more of a courtesy. And I think that, we just, I put a little email out to everybody in my office, said, if you start feeling ill, here's an N95 mask. If you feel the need that you absolutely have to come to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're coughing into the mask and containing or mitigating the threat of virus spread throughout the office.
Nobody wears a mask anywhere in my office. Nobody does any of that stuff. Man, I'll tell you what, it's crazy.
But when you think about it, it makes sense.
You're not talking about Biotech's office.
No, of course not. Okay. Like the cleanest place in the whole city.
I just want to clarify.
But when you think about it, guys, it kind of makes sense if you're containing, the droplets of bug infested body fluids in that mask. you're mitigating the risk of spreading it to others. And like I said, it's done more out of courtesy to others, and I think that's something that's important.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I agree.
listen, what I'm going to ask you then, Tom, is just to give people who are watching an idea of like what are some of the more involved scenes that you've handled in your time, within this industry. What's like one that sticks out in your mind that people
Well,
will be able to say, hey, it's not outbreak, it's not something that was made up. I mean, this is something that I've actually experienced that was unique.
we had a school in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, and it could be researched on Google. We had one of the employees of the school district was diagnosed with C. diff, which is a intestinal Clostridium spore, and it sporulates, and it can get into all nooks and crannies, and it really targets people that have compromised immune systems or those that have been on antibiotics. You're going to hear a lot more about it. I just heard a commercial about a clinical trial for something for C. diff, and they were asking if you were in a hospital or on a long-term antibiotic regimen, we would like to talk to you. So there's drug companies that are trying to come up with a antibiotic or some sort of cocktail in order to curtail the spread. Now, this is, C. diff is still one of those scariest super bugs that we had to deal with. So this employee at the school district never told anybody that they were infected, because they are afraid of the stigma about the bug. And she was going through the symptoms, which includes diarrhea up to 14 times a day, and I believe in January they wheeled her out of the school nearly completely dehydrated and nearly dead. And that's when she told them that she has C. diff. So that was like a 2 or 3 month period from the time. And so the touching, the traffic, where she was, where she went to the bathroom, the industrial hygienist on site said we want 2 schools completely decontaminated. And C. diff is a spore, so it's one of the hardest bacteria to decon, and you have to use a sporicide. So we were scrambling, trying to find enough product, enough know-how. So you know what? I called my fellow ABRA guys. I said, guys, I got 300,000 square feet to decon. What are you doing for the next week?
Yeah.
And 3 of us got together. I had the contract and subcontracted them. And we ran 24/7 cleaning and decontaminating that school as best we could. And we had, it was tested. We were done in 4 days.
Wow.
And that's, using, lint-free microfiber, and wiping down all the surfaces, detail cleaning. And it was one of those jobs that I know doesn't happen very often, but it was probably the largest job that we had ever done regarding an infectious agent like that.
Wow. Well, and that says a lot, especially when we read your history and your credentials. That says a lot.
Yeah. So, like I said, they're big jobs, and then that's probably the one that sticks out the most because I was the most tired from it.
Yeah.
I thank God that I had those 2 other ABRA companies with me.
Yeah.
EmergiClean and BioClean, and because we really I wouldn't have trusted anybody else. Not even, I could get technicians, I can get people to wipe down stuff, not a big deal. But when it comes to a high level or a sporicide, a sporulating bacteria like this, I need to have people on the ground that I trust.
It's really cool about ABRA and being able to reach out to those members and to seek that type of help. We've done it ourselves. I'll tell you what, we do have a chat, and we do have some visitors on there. Hello, Trip. Hello, Amadi. And I'll tell you, we have a question from Paul, who's asking, how effective are the hand sanitizers like Purell that states it kills 99.99% of germs? Are there thousands in that 0.01%?
Well, when you talk about log reduction, okay, and I'm going to get a little nerdy here.
That's all right.
When you talk about log reduction, there are in how disinfectants are, whether it be hand sanitizers or they go through the EPA registration process, okay, and they have to be tested and have efficacy compliance documentation to that claim. So if there's not an EPA registration on the label and on the front of the bottle it says kills 99.9% of germs, it's really not doing much. Okay. And there are also, you have to also look on the label and see what germs that it's registered for. So, oops, sorry guys.
Right.
So it's if it's registered for a non-envelope virus such as norovirus, or is it a sporicide? Does it include bacillus or clostridium? So you have to, when you're researching disinfectants and what people are using out there, whether it's a Purell is just depending on what, there's probably several different types of Purell out there. Look at the label. That's all. If it's EPA registered and there's a claim that it kills 99.99% of pathogens, it's an intermediate disinfectant. Okay, so it's going to kill 99.99% of pathogens killed in a laboratory. In real life, if you have loading or dirt or other stuff on your hands, you're probably not going to get that level of efficacy.
Wow. Well, that's, you just stepped out of the nerdy zone right there, and you came to layman's, like me, layman terms, where you just answered an important question, because we went this weekend. It was raining, it was icy here, and we said, all right, where are we going to go? Where can we take the kids? They closed down. The whole city of San Antonio closed down. And so we were like, where can we go? It kind of cleared up. We said, all right, we're going to go to this place called Main Event. Right? They have video games, and it was like a ghost town. We had the place to ourselves pretty much. And you're over there touching all these video games, all these handles, these, basketballs. It's just I'm looking at everything and I'm going, man, all right. Well, what do? We did what Paul's talking about. Every time we had a chance, we went over there, we put that on our hands and everything, and then we went right back to playing. And I wondered,
soap and water, guys. Soap and water.
Which is what we did when we left, because that was just in between while we're over there, but when we left, we all went to the restroom, washed our hands. So
say your ABCs while you have the soap and water in your hands, and call it a day. Because if there's not a surfactant or something that's lifting the dirt, or biofilm that's harboring bugs on your hands, then it's not going to do anything. Really? That's just my opinion, but everything I've been, you could use the Purell as a final disinfection step after you wash your hands. But man, if you're trying to wash your hands with Purell, it's really not going to do too much.
Huh. That's good information. All right. Hey, so Audrey, what sticks out in your mind? I mean, I know that we recently highlighted, Sutherland Springs, and that was a very impactful job to us emotionally. But outside of that particular incident, what sticks out in your mind with a scene that you've gone into, something that, our viewers, especially listening in for the first time, might say, hey, let me get a feel for something that is outstanding in your memory with all your experience.
Well, I'd have to say that not to take away from anybody that we've ever helped, because I'm always there during a tragedy or some kind of crisis. But whenever I'm called to a scene where a child has been killed, that always has a bigger impact on me. And it's happened several times, unfortunately, where a father or an ex-boyfriend will kill a child. And so I remember very clearly because my son was 7 at the time that we were called to a scene where the ex-boyfriend was upset with his ex-girlfriend because she broke up with him, and he went through the kitchen window with the shotgun and blew that window through. He crawled through. He shot her sister, shot and killed her mother, shot and killed her, and he went to the back bedroom and he killed that 7-year-old. And he shot the father too, but the father survived. And then he eventually took his own life. When I went, if you can imagine the horrific scene that we walked into because of the amount of people that were killed there, it's extremely tragic. But when I walked to the back bedroom where I knew the child was, I was hoping it wouldn't be what it was, and it was a very traumatic scene. And so those stick out to me because a child should never have to go through that, and especially because my son was 7 and it was the same age as that child.
Hmm. Can you get a little closer to the mic for me, Audrey? There you go. Just in general, whenever we experience anything in life that has to do with children, it's one of those things that you just have a hard time uh, comprehending or coping. How anything like that could happen. I mean, even with just a sickness that may happen to a child at a short after a short time of life, it always hits you in a different way. And I'll tell you that that's one of the things that I think is important for the people who would be watching, who might say, you know, um, what is it that you get the most out of what you do? Some people may not get it, but the families of the people that were there to help, the um, the taking on of that burden of having to go in and remediate a scene like that is something that I know as a police officer, when I'm able to help people, and they have no one else to turn to, and it's a situation they're not accustomed to. We like to say bringing calm to chaos. Um, that is a very gratifying feeling for me, and I know for people within our industry to be able to come to a situation like that and put some type of order to it, because man, you can't prepare for anything like that mentally. And I think it's something that I'm very proud of the people who are in our industry that we do for the community.
I
Yeah,
I
it's not. It's not. Go ahead. Go ahead, Audrey.
and I'm sure you are probably going to say the same thing, Tom. I had no idea when I first when Raphael Trini saw the need for our service in San Antonio and said, "Hey, do you think that maybe it's something that you can do?" I had no idea the impact and really how rewarding this would be, because it is a difficult job. It really, really is. But when you're doing it so that the family doesn't have to go in there, doesn't ever have to see what they should never see, it makes it so worth it. I will always go into a scene and see something so that the family doesn't have to. And it is extremely rewarding. It's the best part of what we do because we're able to restore, remediate, and at least give them the home back in an order so that they don't have to face that.
Right. Well, a lot of things, events that we respond to as emergencies. can be very traumatic, even for your own response team. And a lot of people that are outside of our industry, whether insurance adjusters or other stuff, that they just don't see that part of it. And the exposure to employees, the exposure to technicians mentally, it can really do some, it could really mess with some people's minds. And just finding good technicians that have the right mindset about the business is a very difficult process. Since we're part of a larger restoration company, I am maybe I have a luxury where when we hire a new employee into the hazardous materials, the environmental division, that I can cross utilize labor. But it's when we hire somebody new, we ask if they'd be interested in getting certified to do this type of work. And we always ask ahead of time, have you had any tragedies in your life that may trigger some negativity down the road? And because we really worry, that some of the and we've made that mistake. We made that mistake where a guy felt confident he could do the job and never told us that his own brother took his life.
Wow.
And it wasn't a good good fit per se.
It's an awesome thing that you bring up for people who are within the industry now, maybe a business owner, or even somebody who's thinking about getting into the industry as an employee, as a cleaner. It is important, the mental health, a huge part of it. I believe you have to kind of be wired a certain way to be able to do this type of work. I believe the same thing as a policeman or a teacher. It's like you find out pretty quickly if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing when you are spend about a year of real time experiences or real world experiences. I believe that after about a year if this is good for me or not, and I believe it's a calling. I think it's something that mental health can be overlooked by somebody who maybe is just interested in how can I get people to work for me so I can go handle as many jobs as we can get.
And there's a lot of curious people as well that they think that it's a certain way and they don't realize, or there's a lot of people which I can understand. For instance, neighbors or friends that show up to a scene where there's a suicide that occurred and they want to help. And by helping, they want to take care of the scene. And so they try to take care of it with good heart and good intentions, but they don't know how to properly, number one, take care of it. So they end up causing cross-contamination, or more importantly, they end up psychologically, they can't handle it. So they stop.
Yeah.
Well, this is the other terrifying thing too, is that and we're trying to make improvements, through ABRA to come up with some sort of biosafety risk assessment front end process, where, man, we go into some of these scenes. We don't know what that person had. Are you asking the right questions on the front end? What medications were they on? And have they traveled out of the country within the past week? The basic things that we learned from the Ebola crisis can be definitely applied on the front end of a lot of our jobs. So we know what precautions or what level of biosafety that we need to address for the conditions on site. Yeah. And it's not a matter of time. It's just a matter of time before someone who doesn't know what they're doing ends up getting sick or gets multiple people sick.
And that's where,
Um,
and that's exactly why I believe that the ABRA Association or going with somebody who has some kind of checks and balances in place is important. If you are interested in going to work as a crime scene cleaner, or if you want to start a business, thinking about going with somebody who is um, in it for those right reasons, for your mental care, your mental health.
right.
It's a huge thing that could come into play later. And some people who have incidents that have happened in their lives, sometimes they're just wired differently, and they're able to say, you know what, that's why I'm in this business. I was alone. I had this happen, and I had to go in and clean, and I wasn't mentally prepared. I didn't have the correct chemicals. It was psychologically. And when they get into this, because I've talked to them before, and they're saying, I did this because I didn't want somebody else to be in the situation I was. And I felt like, I could do it. And once I started up, it was just very gratifying. The same things that we talk about. And it's great because we have Amadi who's in our Snap or in our chat, sorry, Snapchat, in our chat, who says, is there a preferred timeline to seek your service after an incident to prevent any illness or airborne illnesses?
I would say immediately. You know, when you get somebody involved on the front end that really understands the process, it makes everything go so much smoother for the people who have the people who've had the tragedy and the people they've left behind. Um, so the quicker you can get to it, the faster we can mitigate it.
Right. And it's not just the scene because you're absolutely right, Tom, but it's also giving them guidance for things that they have no idea. They are in a part of their life that they were forced into unexpectedly most of the time,
Right.
and they don't know what to do next. They have no idea. So if we can guide them, because we do this day in and day out, I can help them not just with the cleanup, but with so many other aspects. So that's
Well,
always very, very important.
look at what we sometimes have to do on the front end is you don't have to, I always tell people you don't have to go in the house. Do you know
Exactly.
where the file cabinet is stored with insurance documentation? uh, and we'll go in and we'll find that and help them start the claim process, because a lot of this is covered by insurance, depending on what carrier you have in your policy, of course, and how it's underwritten. But um, you know, we try and help the next of kin find coverage somewhere for the cost of the cleanup, and just doing small things like that so they don't have to go in and be exposed. It's icing on the cake for them.
Yeah, and
They don't want to have.
those are all great subject matters that we are going to dive into in future episodes. The mental health, the specifics about what is covered. What problems have we had in the past with coverage on these types of jobs, and so it's going to be a bunch of great uh, subjects to go into. I have a we have it where we're at about 48 minutes or so, so we're going to be wrapping it up here soon. But I do want to answer some more questions, and I know that Amadi was about preventing illness, a preferred timeline or airborne illness. I mean, I don't. I know that there are some things, Tom, that you can answer on that, but I know Audrey, you talked to people before about we don't want to let it this scene, and we're talking about a scene where biohazards are present. A lot of times when we go in through homicides, suicides, things of that sort, you talk about sometimes the longer that scene stays and where it's at, can you comment on that?
Yes, and
Yeah,
it does get worse. Um, but as far as diseases, some of them can die. They're fragile, and some aren't. Some CDC says, hepatitis is a strong virus that you can't you can't take any chances with. It's very likely it's still alive, and that's how we treat everything when we go in to any scene. That all diseases are there, and they're all very well alive there.
Right, and there are pathogens of environmental significance. Like I said, when you have something that's spread from human to human, it's you can't really do much about that. Because your vector is the human body, and the the path and epidemiology of the microorganism is only deals with human to human contact, or the virus quickly dies outside the body, whether it be airborne or not. And there are methodologies to kill everything in the air and on surfaces out there, and technologies. But you really have to weigh the risk, and that's a very important item to be educated on, are the risk of certain pathogens. So
Yeah, well, when you go into a house where, in particular, you may have somebody who hoards, and you have feces, you have urine, and
sure.
it's out and it's exposed, and those types of situations. It's like Audrey said. I mean, we go into everything as if the worst case scenario is there, for that particular incident, and you protect yourself with the proper PPEs. You make sure you're using the proper chemicals, and you have a game plan before once you go out and you assess the scene, then you develop a game plan so everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
Everybody understands, what's going on.
Dried body fluids and feces can be easily aerosolized, and you have to take your precautions in order to protect yourself when dealing with that.
And that's another question we had from Paul, is along those same lines: can dried blood cause an illness?
Absolutely.
Let's see. So I know that when you come to dry blood, so when we're talking about with this dry blood, because I do remember a few scenes where I've seen some video out there, and you can do research on people. Sometimes they have maybe a show that somebody came and videotaped him, and the way that they're handling these scenes after they sat for a while is as if there's no way that anything can get. It's already been here for a while, and the way they go into it. Where they send the people, the cleaners in to go service an incident, man, they're scraping stuff off the ceilings without any protection. I mean, all right, Thomas, here we go. So, what's the number one quickest route into the body? That the most direct route into your body? Where is it going to get into?
For what pathogen?
Well, see, now you're going off again. So let's say directly into the body. What is it what's the most direct route into the body that
Well,
something can get into
it's inhalation.
in that situation?
Right, but it's inhalation. But you don't realize that, let's say, kids touch their face and their eyes and their mouth and their nose. So I think it was over 1,500 times a day. So they're touching surfaces, touching their eyes, touching their nose. And an adult human touches their face more than 85 times a day with their hands. And so there's for airborne illness, yes, the anything that's aerosolized, ingestion or inhalation is the biggest threat. And ingestion or exposure of soft tissues is the second. So there's the name of the game of this game is go in thinking it is worst case scenario, assess the risk, and then address the conditions thereafter.
Yeah,
And that's
cool.
what makes it sometimes tough too, because you never want to offend any family when you.
Sorry, guys.
Go ahead. That's all right.
Just mute me.
All righty. Hold on just a second. Let's see. Can you? Yeah. Can you? The dog is letting him know that there's somebody there. He's doing his job. The dog's doing his job.
There you go. You don't ever want to offend a family member, because we walk in to the scene once we're prepped, and we take our PPE and our Tyvek suits and our gloves and our mask, whatever that scene calls for. I don't want any family member to say, "Why are you doing that?" My brother wasn't sick, so I always let him know that it's not that we think that anybody had anything, but we just want to take that precaution for ourselves. And OSHA requires that we have to wear this PPE.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, Thomas, we're coming up on what, about 5 minutes left. Uh, Man, tell us about where you're going to be at. I know that we brought up where you're going to be at with this conference, the Biodefense World Summit. What's
Yep.
that about? Just for all the people who might be.
Well, the Biodefense World Summit, I'm going to be one of the speakers there, and it is a gathering of heads of state from the CDC to Department of Homeland Security, and other nations' biological defense experts. So we got NIH, CDC, Department of Homeland Security for our country, and a lot of others that are going to be meeting in Bethesda, Maryland, coming up. So they thought that biorecovery would be an awesome segue into those agencies learning about ABRA, and what we do and what we stand for and what we've accomplished. And I think it's just going to be an awesome segue into expanding ABRA's market presence and reach as a resource for those in need.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'll tell you what, I believe that in this industry, it's like in its infancy. That's what I believe. I believe you can walk down the street now and ask somebody, hey, have you ever heard of any crime scene cleaning companies? And you're still going to get a bunch of people that'll say, man, I didn't know people did that kind of thing. It's in California and Florida. It's mandated. You have to have a company like ours to be able to go out and to service these situations like car accidents on highways and things of that. So I believe it's just only a matter of time before it starts to make its way around the country. And I'm very happy. Yeah,
100% agree with you there.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm very happy to be able to be, at the forefront of that when it comes to trying to bring together everybody from all these different businesses, people who are just getting into this again with the Crime Scene Cleaners Roundtable. I'm just real excited about having people like you here and ready to go. All right.
So I just wanted to, in closing, I just wanted to mention the website, www.americanbiorecovery.org. There's so much information on there and resources, education on the website. So help yourself to it. And that's all I have for today.
Very cool. Audrey, how can people get a hold of you, find out about your company and about what you offer? I know, Audrey, we're franchising, and we have our franchise up in Houston. They're doing awesome. They're doing a great job. We have one in Austin that we're getting ready to get started up. So we're on the move with our franchising. Audrey, how can they find out about you?
They can find us. They can find out about our company at biotexonline.com or about our franchise at www.biotexfranchise.com.
Very cool. Very cool. And now in closing, I'll also tell you that we have a YouTube channel that I think is really cool with the Crime Scene Cleaners Roundtable. We've got some daily videos out there. It's kind of like an inspiration type videos that we post here and there. And of course, this is where you're at. You're finding our Crime Scene Cleaners Roundtable. So real excited about everything that's going on. Tom, once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for having me, guys. It's a pleasure always talking to you, and we'll see you at the ABRA conference in August.
Very cool. Very cool. And everybody who is on our live chat, thank you very much for your comments and your questions, and looking forward to it, to the next show. So thank you guys again. We'll see you next time.